Greetings, I'm Dr. Sean Reed, author of the Dating Toolbox, available on Amazon.com. If you like what you hear and see today, please hit the like and the subscribe button. Okay, so today I want to talk about the scientific fact, that female and male brains are different. Over the last 30, 40 years, we've had advances in technology that have demonstrated MRI, CAT scans, PET scans, all sorts of technological developments. We have the ability to look at the human brain. And very clearly, we can see that male and female brains are different. Female brains are predominantly white matter, and male brains are predominantly gray matter. The construct actually of white and gray matter isn't that different, but women use 10 times more white matter than men, and men use more gray matter than women. So the way we use our brains, the way we use white and gray matter in the human brains is different, okay? And what that also means is that one brain, the female brain, is process oriented, and the male brain is problem solution oriented. The male brain can kind of be viewed as a bunch of tiny boxes that keeps information compartmentalized and away from other information. And the reason we are like this is because of evolution. Males evolved to have a problem solution brain because for most of our 99.9% of our existence, when we were hunter-gatherers, the male brain would need to do things like hunt and make weapons and was very specifically focused upon tasks, whereas the female brain had to do everything else. So, I argue that brains are different, but the male brain isn't better than the female brain. Not by a long shot. And as a matter of fact, I argue that in today's world, the female brain is actually better suited to a lot of our emerging job markets that tend to be more bureaucratic. Think of a job that involves juggling multiple tasks at once with a ton of paperwork. Women are actually, the process-oriented brain is better than that. So I don't argue that one brain is better than another. I simply argue that brains are different. And as a matter of fact, the reason why we can't get good relationship advice from academia, especially the field of psychology, is because they have been resistant. They've refused to recognize. This is starting to change. It's actually started to change a little bit over the last 10 years. People like Gottman and other scholars now are willing to admit that brains are different. But for a long, long time, the field of psychology was unwilling to recognize the scientific fact, that male and female brains were different. The concern was, it was a political concern. The concern was that if brains are different, that might mean that males are superior. And so the field of psychology was very hesitant to recognizing this difference. That's why it's so hard to get good relationship advice, because most of the disciplines refuse to operate from the fact that male and female brains are different. So that's why it's really hard to get good relationship advice from academia. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about what this means in terms of relationships. Basically, my argument is, and I make this claim drives a lot of the work in my book, my argument is that unless you understand how the female brain works, unless you understand the difference between the process-oriented brain and the problem-solution-oriented brain, you will never have success at relationships. A great example is what I like to refer to as the talk about the day. So you'll go to work, your wife will go to work, and when you come home, your wife wants to talk about her day. And this is an example of where men get into trouble because they don't understand the fundamental difference between how male and female brains work. Women are process oriented, men are problem solution oriented. So a woman will start to talk about her day, and she'll start to talk about particular problems that she has during that day and how she's going about solving them. What men don't understand is this is how the process-oriented brain works. A woman will talk about her day. She will talk about the problems and the challenges she's had to face that day and the solutions. And men, because we're problem solution, will jump in and interrupt her and try and solve her problems. I'm telling you guys, don't do that. I've mentioned this in some other videos, but it bears repeating. Don't jump in. Just let her talk. Your wife, your significant other, she has a pretty good idea of what she's going to do. But her way of getting to her conclusion is through talking about it, through talking about it and through going through that process. So if you jump in and interrupt her, you're going to frustrate her and anger her. And what that means is her interest level is going to go down. That's another big difference between my relationship advice and the relationship advice of academia is they think communication is the most important thing. Now, communication is important, right? When your wife's talking about her day, she's communicating. But what is more important than communication, what really is everything, is whether or not she loves you. And I like to quantify that as interest level, okay? So if you jump in and interrupt her and her interest level, she's going to get upset and her interest level is going to drop. If you just sit back, if you listen to her, don't jump in, don't interrupt her, just listen to her, her interest level is going to go up and she's going to love you a little bit more at the end of that conversation. So again, the female brain is fundamentally different from the male brain, and you have to understand that if you want to be successful at relationships.